Welcome back to Boss and Cage podcast. So today's guest is my man Jesse. So those are the people that know me from like the Boston Cage Academy and like, all the education stuff I've been doing. You would probably remember him because again, you probably seen his face a million times because I'm teaching you guys on his particular platform. So sure as hell, the story goes it was one night I woke up at like 2 o'clock in the morning randomly, and I'm looking at his Facebook group, and he put a post out there saying that he wanted to be on podcast, and I was like, well, look at that shit there, that just happened. So here's Jesse, and I'm gonna name him the influencer boss. So Jesse, why don't you tell us just a little bit about you and what we're talking about today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I got started with my online business journey when I hurt my knee playing basketball. I wanted to be an NBA superstar. That was kind of my first gig. And I played basketball from the time I was like 5 years old to 24, almost every single day. So I was real passionate about it, but I knew I wanted to do something big with my life. And when I hurt my knee and I couldn't get it fixed and I didn't have health insurance and I had no money, I had to turn to something else. And I found doing business for myself as something that I could do. I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I realized, I was thinking like the poor dad my whole life until I got woke up after I read that book. And then I started doing network marketing, started trying to build my business. I realized I needed to be online because I saw the top people in the network marketing industry were building online businesses, generating email leads, getting people to their social media accounts, building up a podcast like what you got. And, I started learning that. And, when I first started, I struggled. I was living with my dad. I was trying to build my business. I was 120,000 in debt. I was working at a restaurant, and I was like, I got to figure this online game out, but I got no money. I got nothing. I got no network. I don't really know much of anything about business other than the fact that I need to learn it and do it. So I got started, in a humble start out of the gate. And what I did though, is I went on YouTube and I learned how to build websites.
Hmm.
So that was one thing that I learned how to do with WordPress. And some of my friends started asking me, hey, you got your own website, bro? Like, can you help me get one? How does that work? So I started learning how to do websites, and I kind of became the website guy. And that was kind of my first gig where I actually got paid for the first time. I was struggling, but my dad comes in the room one day when I was trying to build a website for one of my friends, and he's like, Jesse, are you making any fucking money up here, bro? Like I was at work today. I made $500 at my job. You probably made nothing. Like, is this business even worth it? Are you even going to do something with it? And at that point, I was just like, whatever, dude, you're like the poor dad and rich dad, poor dad. I don't want to be like you, dad, like, so I was, getting tough love from because I was living with my dad, and he was super hard on me and negative. So I actually, like probably the first day he kind of was taunting me and talking shit. And then the next day he comes in, he's like, dude, if you're going to live here, you need to get out and get a real job because you're a fucking bum, dude. Look at you. You're a third-class citizen. You need to be a first or second-class citizen like me and get a real job. Like, you're a loser. You went to college for 7 years. You didn't learn a fucking thing, dude. Like, I'm embarrassed to have you as my son. So like, him saying that to me and me being competitive playing basketball, I ended up kind of getting up in his face, probably yelling at him a little, saying, dude, I don't want to be like you. I'm not like you. It doesn't matter where you start in life. It matters where you finish. So I moved out right then and there. I mean, that was it. Like, I was like, okay, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make my dream happen. Like that, my dad, what they say, like pressure busts pipes. It also makes diamonds.
Yeah.
And my dad was giving me tough love. And, that's what dads do a lot of times. They're hard on you. They're extra, but they mean well at the end of the day. So I ended up moving out of my dad's house. Now I'm sleeping on my buddy's couch. And my mom calls me crying like a week later. She's like, Jesse, now the feminine energy hits me, right? Jesse, you need to do something because the creditors are threatening to take away my house because of you. Like, because I was 120,000 in debt from student loans. I was in college for 7 years. Did I learn a thing? I don't know. I was playing basketball a lot. My dad was probably right, like some of what he was saying, but I didn't like what he was saying. But now my mom is coming at me like she's going to get her house taken away if I don't figure something out. So I look at my cell phone, I find this one guy that I was networking with when I was in college, because I had a business plan for like a nightclub, and he owned all these clubs in San Diego, and like he was like super wealthy real estate guy. So I call him up and I say, look, man, I could build you a website. And he's like, really? When I'm actually interested in getting a website. My buddy just bought one for 20 grand for Stingery, the nightclub in downtown San Diego. I'm interested in getting maybe a couple websites. When can you come down to my office? So I go down to his office, and I remember like the butterflies, the excitement. I knew this is probably my big break as like an entrepreneur, and I've been struggling for, I don't know how long, like probably 3-4 years, 5 years, like after college, trying to figure out, I was going to make like even a few dollars. Anyway, he ended up giving me $10,000 to build him 5 websites. So that was more money I ever saw in my lifetime. I'm waiting tables making $50 a day, in tips. So this was a huge breakthrough for me, and I was super excited. I told my mom, she was excited. I still wasn't talking to my dad at this point, but I'm sure he ended up being proud of me later on. But that was kind of my first indoctrination into being an online marketing specialist, because that guy started plugging me into all these paying gigs to do websites, and then I started doing SEO. Then I started doing Facebook marketing. Then I learned a strategy from this guy, Chris Record, as far as like how to build Facebook fan pages. And I was learning from him and Arthur Tubman how to do that. And then I learned how to build fan pages like really, really well. And then I ended up getting Brendan Burchard as a client. And that's when I started seeing like real money coming in, like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And, that was a really huge opportunity. And I had Brendan as a client for like 9 years or so. But yeah, that was when I really got in the game, was working with Brendan Burchard. I was speaking at stages like, Chalene Johnson, Brendan Burchard. Yeah, that's really my story. I went from struggling for several years to being the website guy, to then finally getting some paid gigs, to then doing a bunch of websites for people all over San Diego, to learning how to drive traffic and becoming the traffic guy for Facebook. And starting to do hundreds of thousands a month in revenues, because my company, when I got Brendan Burchard as a client, went from about 230,000 a year in sales to 2.5 million in sales with one client one client that I got. And that was because I learned an out of the box social network, social marketing strategy that not a lot of people knew. So that was really how I got in the game.